Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to all of the council, both that are seated and both those that are going to be seated. I kind of shared this once before, and I decided I wouldn't call and ask anybody how long I had. That way they can't get me until I'm done. I'd like to take you to the First Kings. It's the Old Testament, so nobody should have a problem with that. This is the Old Testament. In First Kings, chapter 3, and I really believe this is befitting to you, ladies and gentlemen, who are going to control this city. Listen to God and Solomon. God had a discussion with Solomon and asked him, "What would you have me to do for you?" And here's what he said. "And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David, my father. And I am but a little child." This is how he put himself. And this is what I'm going to say to you all as council members, my mayor, and everybody. Just as a little child, I know not how to go out or to come in. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which you have chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for the multitude. Here's his request. "Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people?" And the speech pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for serving. You go through a lot to get where you are. People throw at you, they do all kinds of things. They put up signs, they do this and that and the other. But ladies and gentlemen, it's not an accident that you're in the seat that you're in. Chris, it's not an accident that you're where you are. Each one of us are where we are because we have been purposely set by the hand of God. Now, being that I am who I am and always will be who I am, not afraid to tell anybody that it's the power of God that governs our hands, our thought, and everything about us. That's going to be how we're praying in this moment. To say that same prayer that Solomon asked God. And those of you who know a little bit about your word know that he was one of the wisest men that ever lived, but yet he said, "I'm a child. Teach me, Lord, how to do that." So with that thought in mind, with all of us, and I'd like to say to all who are here, if you came for good, you're in the right room. If you came for bad, you're in the wrong room. And so with that in mind, let's pray. Our Father, we come to you tonight with a great honor that you have given us to be in America, in the land of the free and brave. You've brought us from all cultures, walks, and levels of education, even into this room tonight. And we thank you for it. I particularly thank you for the men and women who have selected to stand forward in the midst of all that can come at them and say, yes, I will be one of those who will help govern my city to be the best city it could ever be in this country or anywhere else. Now, Master, we can't do it without your wisdom. But with your wisdom, it is definitely possible. We thank you for what we see going on in the streets and the buildings and all of the other things that are happening because of the forethought of the council that are sitting and is to come. So now, Lord, I pray, starting with our mayor, asking you to give him wisdom and to speak to him in a way maybe like only you can speak and only he can hear. I pray for our vice mayor. I pray for each council member. I pray for those who will be seated. And I just ask you now, Lord, on behalf of the city, on behalf of every person in this city, I pray for fairness and equitable for every person that walk into this hall. I pray for every staff member. Pray for our city manager, Mark, and all of those men and women who work under him. God, we can't move without you. Help us tonight as we dive into 2010 and on. Would you bless us, Lord? Bring our minds to know you in the precious, holy, and righteous and matchless name of Jesus. I pray this prayer. Amen and amen. God bless you.
Thank you, Bishop. Tonight we have Troop 108 who will lead us in the flag salute. Or the Pledge of Allegiance. So, I guess the two are different.
Please put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay. Ed, you want to come on down with me and we'll... So, Councilman Cilio joined the council in 2002. That was 8 years ago. Before that, you were on the Planning Commission for 6 years. So we have 14 years of dedicated service to this city. And you performed remarkably through good times, through bad times, through contentious times. And when the contentious times came to an end, you were willing to put them aside and bring the city back together each and every time. Some of you folks may not know, but Lancaster is truly a contentious city at times. It's been an honor to serve with you these last 2 years. It's been an honor to work with you these past 16 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. I would like to say just a couple words. And actually, my political career didn't really start in 96. It started in 94 when a current city council member asked me if I wanted to be a planning commissioner. And I said, "What's a planning commissioner?" True. 2 years later, another council member asked me the same thing. By that time, I'd been watching for a couple of years, and I said, "I have something to add. I can do some good for my city." And for 6 years, I did that to the best of my ability. In 2002, there was an opportunity to run for city council, and at that point in time, somehow our city had never had a planning commissioner move up to the city council. I thought that was a shortcoming that we had, and I tried to fill that gap as best I could. I think it's a pretty good path to take. We have a planning commissioner and a planning commissioner and a planning commissioner, and Councilman Marcus served on the General Plan Advisory Committee, so it must be a pretty good path. I think it's served our city well. Something happened in 1994. My wife asked me a question when I told her, someone asked me to be a planning commissioner. She said, "You would never run for public office, would you?" And I said, "Of course not." Well, things change, but I've come full circle. If someone were to ask me that today, I'd say, of course not. But seriously, I could not have done this job. I could not have given 14 years of my life. If my wife did not support me 100%. On top of that, to sit up on the dais takes the support of the city as a whole. Whether they like what you're doing or don't like what you're doing, it is the office you hold, and you have to support the people that sit there. That's why we need to come together after elections. That's why, while Rex and I can be contentious at times, we can stand up here and recognize that this is what's great about America, is there is a peaceful change from one term to the next. The one group of people I've left out so far are the people you see sitting to my left and to my right. For 14 years, the staff of your city gets put in the thick of things. They don't have any choice about the political decisions that we make, yet they have to carry them out. They might agree with them or disagree with them, but in the 14 years that I've been watching, they do an incredible job. And I don't mean to say that just to puff them up. I look at other cities. I see the turmoil they have. I see what they do right and what they do wrong, and I would hold the staff of this city up against any city in the state of California, bar none. I've sat here through 3 city managers, I think 11 council members. I don't know how many planning commissioners and other commissioners. But it's good to see that we've established a pathway through our commissions that people can get involved in our community. The one negative thing I have to say, when I look at the last election, is 20% of the people voted. That means 4 out of 5 people didn't. If we could change that one thing, if we could involve 100% of our community, there is no end to what Lancaster can become. I want to thank you all for the support you've given me in 14 years. And people have asked me what I'm going to do after the city council, and people get up and speak, and if I disagree with them, what am I going to do? And here's what I'm going to do. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cilio. All speaker cards must be filled out and submitted prior to the agenda item being called. The same rule applies if you wish to speak on non-agendized items at the end of the meeting. Following this process will allow us to conduct a timely and orderly meeting. Thank you. Is it the city clerk or the city attorney that's going to?
The city clerk will go first, then the city attorney.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, City Council. After I give my report, our city attorney will also have a report to give. The city's general municipal election was held on April 13th, 2010, and was conducted in all aspects required of the law. In all respects, the election was held, votes were cast, received and canvassed, and you will see by resolution number 10-16 the ballot results and the approval of the 3 measures by the citizens. On Election Day, my staff and I and our volunteer poll workers put out several fires pertaining to election issues. This is no different than what goes on with any other election, whether it is a city election, school district, hospital board, county election, or even a presidential election. There's always little fires that have to be put out. Some of the issues that pop up tend to be precincts opening up on time, volunteer inspectors and volunteer clerks canceling at the last minute, bilingual poll workers canceling at the last minute. Phone calls from different precincts come in, and we handle these as they come in, and we handle these issues immediately. And we do this to make sure the election process proceeds smoothly, and we are in constant contact with our poll workers. Our poll workers are a unique group of volunteers, and 97% of them not only help with our election every 2 years, but they help with the county and state elections throughout the year. On election evening, once the polls close, our election team expands to no less than 50 city employees, sheriff's deputies, sheriff's explorers, who give of their time and hard work to processing the ballots that come to us from each precinct. Every single ballot must be accounted for not only by the inspectors and the clerks at the polls, but also by our own ballot processing boards during election evening. Our recommendation to you this evening is for council to adopt Resolution 10-16, reciting the facts of the general municipal election held on Tuesday, April 13th, declaring the results regarding the election of the mayor, 2 council members, and 3 measures. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we have received 3 written challenges to the election. The first was submitted by Mr. Jonathan Irvin, in which he asked that the election be invalidated on 2 grounds, specifically that the ballot contained the name of an ineligible candidate, Victoria Zavala, and that his picture in the voter pamphlet was too dark for people to recognize him. The second issue was raised prior to the election, and I'll get to that in a second. The second complaint was received from Diane Davis, and it basically asked for the election to be invalidated because of her concerns over Measure I. The third complaint was received from David Aber, in which he places the city on notice that of his challenge to the integrity of the election based on the handling of his nomination papers, his denial of freedom of movement, First Amendment violation related to a March 26th KB BYD groundbreaking, and the ineligibility of Victoria Zavala. So those are the 3 complaints. There are 2 Elections Code sections that are applicable to challenges to the election process. The first is Elections Code section 13314, which deals with pre-election challenges. And it allows a voter or an elector to seek a writ of mandate alleging that an error or omission has occurred in the following areas: the placing of the name on the ballot, or the printing of the ballot, a sample ballot, voter pamphlet, or other official matter, or that any neglect of duty has occurred or is about to occur. This section allows challenges prior to the election. And with the exception of Mr. Aber's First Amendment complaint, which has absolutely nothing to do with the election, each of the issues raised in the complaints could have been raised through that section prior to the election. But no action was brought. Once we get to Election Day and past Election Day, then the Elections Code section 16100 governs any challenges that can be made to the election. And that section sets forth 7 areas or 7 grounds upon which a challenge may be made. The Supreme Court of California has determined that those grounds are exclusive. They are the only grounds upon which a post-election challenge may be made. And I'm not going to go through and read each one of them, but they basically involve miscounting, bad conduct by poll workers, etc. None of the sections would be applicable to these challenges, with the exception of potentially 2 sections. One of them, Section B, allows a challenge if there is an ineligible candidate on the ballot who is elected to office. Then you can challenge it. But in this case, the ineligible candidate, as we will see in a minute, was Ms. Zavala. She was not elected, and so that section would be inapplicable to this situation. The other section is Section C, which allows a challenge in the event that there is bribery or another violation of the penal sections of the Elections Code. And there are a variety of things that can happen. I've reviewed those. The one section that could be applicable in this case is the one that deals with the filing of false nomination papers. Section, I think it's 18803, or 302, 18203. And that would involve the filing of actually knowing that you're filing false papers in connection with the election. In this case, Ms. Zavala came in to get her papers. The city clerk determined that she was a registered voter in the county and in the city on the county voting records. The nomination papers were returned with a different address on it, and that address was located outside the city. But it shows that on the filing papers there was no indication that there was an attempt to falsify the location of her residence as being in the city. It was, when you look on the map, it's in some of the area that is carved out north of Avenue M on the southern border of the city. But it is clearly not within the city boundaries, which under Government Code Section 36502 would make her ineligible to run for city council. Now, under Section 16100, in order to sustain a claim under that, you have to show that not only was there a violation of the criminal sections of the Elections Code, but that you have to have proof that that violation would have affected the result of the election. The issue with which we're presented tonight, where we have an ineligible voter on the ballot who, in this case, garnered a little more than 2,000 votes, and the difference in between the second place council winner and the third place council winner was roughly 1,900 votes. The question is, could that have had an effect? And in a case involving the city of Montebello, Salazar versus city of Montebello, a similar action or question was raised, and the court there concluded that the question of how people would have voted had this ineligible candidate not been on the ballot was pure speculation. No one knows who those 2,000 voters would vote for. You can't tell whether they would vote for one of the other losing candidates, whether they would vote for Mr. Irvin, whether they would vote for one of the two candidates who actually won. It's pure speculation what they would do. And in the absence of clear and convincing proof, the court says that they are going to uphold the general rules applicable to elections, which require the courts to sustain the will of the voters and to sustain the election results unless there is no other choice. And in this case, those general rules, I believe, would dictate that the election results be upheld. I think there's for two reasons. One, there's a lack of evidence to support a claim that there was a violation of Section 18203, that there was a knowing filing of false nomination papers. And second of all, there's a pure lack of proof. And I would point out in the Salazar case, the margin of victory was 20 votes. And there were 448 votes available to the ineligible candidate. And the court refused to even examine the impact of that. And I think the result here is even stronger. It would take literally more than 90% of the votes that went to Ms. Zavala to completely go to and only to Mr. Irvin in order to have any impact on the election. And to suggest that that would happen, I think, is pure speculation and cannot be possible to support a claim that it would affect the result. But in the absence of any criminal conduct, we don't even get to that question. So in my opinion, the election should be upheld. The council should take the action to certify the results, and we should move forward with that action at this point in time. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have. And I did provide you with a written memo that sets out this in detail.
Any questions?
Dave, just, I want to make sure this is perfectly clear, and I'm doing this for the benefit of our city clerk. Our city clerk did exactly what the election code required in verifying that Ms. Zavala registered address, with the registrar, as her voting residence was within the city. That is the sum of her responsibility there?
Yes, she verified that she was a registered voter in the city. And when there was a question about the difference in the addresses, which occasionally happens with people, they'll have an address at which they reside and another address at which they receive mail, or it could be any number of reasons. But she did verify the registration, and when she inquired with respect to the other address, the response was, "I'm moving." And so she didn't go beyond that inquiry at the time.
I just want to, if we have speakers, and I'm sure we do, if we have anyone who's going to infer that there's some kind of conspiracy involving our city clerk, let's just say I'm not going to be happy, because that's just not the case. I've known our city clerk for several years, and she is simply the straightest arrow I've ever met on the planet.
Mr. McEwen, I'm confused about something. I remember back when Phil Wyman was living in, had rented a garage apartment in Atlanta. Yes. And ran for the Senate or Assembly, whatever it was. Remember that? Yeah. And I remember at that time I was confused. Is the code require that the person actually be a resident of the city, or does the code require that they be registered in the city and the registration requirements require residency? You follow me?
Yes, and it is the latter.
So just so we're clear how that works, because it's confusing to me, and I'm sure it's confusing to other people. A person could live in Seattle, technically. Say they live in Seattle, but if they're registered in Lancaster, the clerk, what option does she have?
It truly is not up to the clerk to go out and independently investigate everybody's residence or domicile, which is the key to registration laws. But just to be perfectly clear, the requirement of the government code is that you be a qualified elector in the city in which you intend to run, a registered voter in the city in which you are required to run. And that determination was made when she goes to the county records and finds that, in fact, she was a registered voter in the city at the time she filed the papers.
And so where the rub is that in order to be a registered voter, you have to live at that address, right?
Yes, that has to be your
But it's
in a legal term, domicile.
It's not a one-step process, it's a two-step process.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, let's go to the speaker cards. Shelley Rubin.
It's on Measure I. I think she's coming. Shelley Rubin is talking about Measure I. Measure I.
Mayor Paris, City Council members, my name is Shelley Rubin, and I am the chairman of the Jewish Defense League. My husband was Irv Rubin, who was the leading plaintiff against the city of Burbank when Burbank, like you, decided that it would be appropriate to have prayers in the council chambers that that make people who are not Christian feel like they are outsiders. I think the city of Lancaster has always been a model place where people get along and everyone respects each other. But today, I feel from the introductory comments of the esteemed bishop, to me, it's positively clear that the city of Lancaster practices a policy of exclusion, not inclusion of its residents and visitors. The city of Burbank filed an appeal that went all the way up to the state Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court found in favor of my husband. It is wrong, and it is against what is right with America when you exclude those who do not believe the same way you do. I hope that the citizens who agree with me here will see me after the meeting, because I do plan to file a lawsuit against your city. And I'm so sorry to do it. When public monies are so scarce, your resources shouldn't be spent doing something that is wrong. You shouldn't spend city money, taxpayers' money, trying to fight what you did wrong in the first place. Thank you so much for letting me speak before the council. Thank you.
Donna Grindy.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Donna Grindy. I am a retired city clerk. I am here this evening in support of Resolution 1016 and in support of your city clerk, Jerry Bryant.
You're a brave woman.
I am a former city clerk. I've known Jerry for 21 years. And during that time, I have found her to be very competent and a very professional person. Election process is a very complex process with a myriad of duties, procedures, processes, and I won't go through the whole process because you've seen it all, but it's all designated by law. Jerry has followed the law, the procedures, the processes, and the protocol. She is loyal. She takes responsibility for her actions. She is very, very honest. And as Councilmember Cilio said, she is a straight arrow. I've witnessed Jerry administer elections, and I can assure you she runs the process smoothly and efficiently, and as most of you have witnessed, and in fact does protect the integrity of the election. I thank you for your time, and again, I support her 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Correa. Did I get that right?
Good evening, Mayor Paris,
Good
and
evening.
all of the city council members and the distinguished guests and the residents of Lancaster. I am here on behalf of people that I personally registered to vote, not just for this election, but for the election since 2008. And I was very concerned because several of the people did not know there was an election, nor did they receive a sample ballot, nor did they receive the other information explaining the names of the people that were running and the measures. And I've taken a couple of people who happen to be seniors because on their list. We didn't know where their polling place was. We normally vote at Sierra Elementary School. We went there. One of the staff didn't even know there was an election happening that day. So the other lady informed me, go and try the other school off of Avenue J. We went over there. She was not registered there. They indicated that from where we lived, you had to go over to the Assembly of God on 20th Street. But there was no indication as to where the polling places are. And you have to understand, these are seniors. My main concern is, I had her fill out a provisional ballot. I feel that the City of Lancaster needs to count those provisional ballots, because how many other residents were disenfranchised at this election because when they went to their respective polling places, they weren't listed. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. How many provisional ballots were there?
598 were counted.
And were they counted?
Yes.
And were the people they voted for included in the overall totals of the candidates that ran?
Yes.
So everybody got counted?
Yes.
Thank you. Jonathan Urban?
Good afternoon. Well, this is difficult. I like Marvin. He's a friend of mine. But I've been a member of the United States Air Force since 1997. And I took an oath to defend and uphold the United States Constitution. That does not stop when I take off that uniform. And April 13th, there are over 2,000 disenfranchised voters. I have a question for the city attorney. What I'd like is, before the election is certified, that a public response be made to the Secretary of State, because the Secretary of State sent correspondence to the city of Lancaster, and I'll read some of it for you. Based on the information you provided to this office, as well as information we received from the other Lancaster residents, we are concerned about the procedures the City of Lancaster used to conduct the April 13th municipal election. Therefore, pursuant to the authority in Government Code 12172.5, permitting the Secretary of State to require elections officials to report on elections in their jurisdiction, the Secretary of State's office requests the following information from the City of Lancaster related to the April 13th, 2010 municipal election. And there are 6 points. What needs to happen prior to the certification of this election is that response to the Secretary of State, the letter that was sent to the Secretary of State and the Secretary of State's response be made public, and that the public have some sort of input on what we do from here, how we go forward. This is America. Everyone deserves the right to vote and not be disenfranchised. So I ask you today, do not certify this election until all of those grounds that are met, the investigation from the Secretary of State is complete. Thank you.
Maureen O'Donnell. No.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm here. I feel that I represent a group of people. My vote was not counted. I'm one of the 2,000 disenfranchised voters. On my way here today, I was telling my 16-year-old son why it was important for him to come with me today. And it was alluded to in your speech. 10% of people voted. I'm not here because I think that I do believe it needs to be investigated. I do believe we need a recount. I think there's a bigger picture here. The message that we're sending to our children, the people I'm trying to get to register to vote. He truly shrugged his shoulders, and his response was, I get that she was robbed, Mom, but what can I do? And he's not even registered to vote now. So I just think that there's a bigger picture here over the nuts and bolts that I realize are There's a lot of paperwork. I don't think anybody's suggesting that the city clerk did anything wrong, but Ms. Zavala did meet her responsibilities. And for her votes not to count after the election, I think is criminal. And I just think that there's a bigger picture here, and we need to consider our future voters and the future, the people that will determine who's in office in the city of Lancaster for the next 20 and 30 years. Thank you.
Okay, is that it? That's it. Okay, that concludes the speaker cards. Any discussion?
I'll move that we adopt resolution number 10-16.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
One quick, do it.
I put in my card, Joseph Yore. Are you sitting on it?
You know,
That was cute, but let me read what your card said, and then maybe you can explain it. Joseph Yore circled. Sir, can I speak, please? You circled on your speaker card, non-agendized item from the floor. Who was the other person that said they had a card? Ms. Zavala circled, non-agendized public item from the floor. We put them in the non-agendized items. This is not a non-agendized item. This is a agendized item. I read the
Okay.
cards. I don't look at
Okay.
the names. I just put them in there. So,
okay.
you want to have them speak? Here you go, Joseph.
Ms. Zavala, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Paris. I appreciate that. Good evening, staff, everyone. As you all may know, I'm really sorry that all this had to happen, but I really filed my papers in true, honest, and justice. Just as the same day I came up here on this podium and started advocating my reason. I had a reason, I had an issue. I thought you get an issue, you get involved. I got involved. I did everything you asked for. You asked for a doer, Mr. Paris. You asked for leadership. It's right here. You're just not giving it a chance. And the thing is, I was honest. I gave in all my paperwork. I ran for council. I put in a lot of hard work. It's not about the money. It's not about the time. It's about the integrity in the city and what you taught me here running for council. To be honest, to be noble, and to do a great job for the committee and for the community and the citizens. And that's what I uphold. See, as a former first responder, and in the industry that I'm in right now, we seek legalization, regulation, and we're honest. I pay my taxes like everybody else. I'm a 37-year-old educated Latina with a 4-year-old daughter. I love what I do all day, every day. My residents, everything I did, I held the utmost integrity. When I turned in my business, my seller's permit and everything, it was my same address. I never had any intentions except for running a good, clean campaign and hoping to win one of these seats, like I said. I didn't. That's fine. But we move forward and we do what's right for the citizens and the community. Let's just have a re-election because it's not fair. 2,000 people went out and voted for me. I did a lot of work. You challenged me. Hispanics, African Americans, they don't vote and the youth aren't interested anymore. But I went out there with Uncle Sam and on street corners and signs, okay, to get these people out there and vote. 4 out of 5, it's terrible in numbers. But I knocked doors and I did it. And that's all it should really matter. Okay, I apologize, Jerry, that this all had to be the way it is. But I'm honest. People need to know what happened. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
So I have some questions. What would be different? I mean, do you honestly contend that those 2,000 votes, enough of them would have voted for your running mate when they had 2 people to vote for?
Is it really about the running mate, or is it about the votes that people went out there and
Well,
voted?
I think it's about would it make a difference.
Absolutely, Mr. Barris.
Where's
Absolutely.
the difference?
The difference
The same
is
people would be sitting in office, right?
But the 2,000 people that went out and voted, you challenged me. You said Victoria Zavala. You told me at that Agape Church. African Americans and Hispanics don't vote, Victoria. That's what's wrong. Your voices are not loud enough. Well, I showed you 2,000 people. Look at the crowd here today. I'm not about controversy. I'm about honesty, integrity. You know that, Mr. Paris. You know that. I wouldn't stand here today if I lied. I never lied.
I saw an interview where you said that people were telling you during the election that you did not live in the city limits. I heard you say that. I heard you say it out of your own lips for all of us to hear. And it occurs to me, why didn't you inquire then?
Because I did go to Jerry and I did tell her, Jerry, I haven't received anything in my mail. Is there a reason why? And she did look in a book that I was under and I said, no, I turned all my paperwork here. Okay, just put in, re-register. I have a letter from Jerry saying they used that machine, they used everything to prove. David Paul has been to my house. Why didn't he tell me I lived in Court Hill?
Ms. Valla, I'm not questioning.
I know, but I'm saying.
I'm not questioning that you did anything wrong when you filed. What I'm asking you is, people were telling you, you are not living in the city.
And I said, no, I'm a resident of Lancaster because that's what all my paperwork and my mail and everything says. So, yeah. Because everybody is confused when you go in that area. It's something I'm even learning here in 5 years. They do it in Palmdale. They do it in Lancaster, Court Hill. They do it in Antelope Bakers. They do it on the east side, Lancaster Baptist, that area. Some of those people in that area, they can't vote.
Did you discuss people's concern about whether or not you were actually living in the city limits with any other candidate?
Maybe one or two people said, oh, Victoria, that's Lancaster or Court Hill? And I says, no, I'm Lancaster. My mail says Lancaster. Okay?
Okay.
Simple.
Ms. Zavala, nobody's saying that you did anything wrong or that you did anything inappropriate. But I'm certainly not saying that the clerk did either. When I looked at all of the forms, I can see where the system can be improved. And the only person that should take responsibility for that is me and the council. Unfortunately, we tend to only fix things when they're broken. And for 30 years, this system has worked without any flaws. That's not to say it wasn't flawed. This election brought forth a flaw that we will fix. But it was a systemic error. And on top of that, I don't know that I'm empowered to do anything about it. Could you imagine if, well, let's just suppose I lost, all right? And I'm up here saying I'm not going to certify the election because I thought something was inappropriate. I don't think I have the power to do that.
Right.
And do we want elected officials on their way out the door to be able to say, no, I get to stay? I mean, that's not a democratic principle to me.
Are you trying to tell me something, Mr. Cilio? No, just kidding. No, I understand that. It's just a lot of people. It's a lot of votes. If it was 200 or something.
And every one of those votes was counted, and they were counted for you, and you came in fourth. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not like you're aggrieved here. You know, and you did do a good showing, and you did it with very little money, and it was actually a joy to watch the amount of passion that you put into this. And I did see you on street corners. I mean, it was truly a passionate display of somebody going up against the Goliath because you had no funds. It was impressive, is what I'm saying. The number of votes you got were impressive. But when I hear people come up and say that somehow you're the aggrieved one here, I just don't understand it. No. And I don't think you think you're aggrieved.
I wouldn't be here. I just feel as though hopefully we can fix this situation in the future, or whatever ends up needs to happen. And I'm glad that you did recognize that I ran a great campaign with very little money.
It was impressive.
Okay. Thank you.
Joseph Yore. I love that jacket.
Mayor Paris and City Council, I missed your open production, so I can't criticize you. The assignment tonight is for my old friend here, Henry Hearns, and it's Matthew 6:5 through the end. How you doing, Henry?
I'm fine.
6:5 through 10. I actually came here for the young lady there. I think she should never apologize on a First Amendment or the 14th Amendment. Every war in history, going back 15,000 years, that's during a time of 5,000 years ago when they talk about the Godship. Today they talk about spaceships and what have you not. Angels don't fly, they travel in ships. What the young lady said, every man have to be proud of a woman because we come from the womb of the woman and she is a precious person, a very precious person. Which you stated they took out a concept, bad teeth. Had a lousy dentist that cost me $18,000. And I can't sue him. Anyway, he's a good man. But I want to tell a story. It's a good story. I come here to really tell a story. 48 years ago, this week, I belonged to the Hollywood Christian Group. And there was Roy Rogers, Dal Evans, Ty Harding, Peter Brown, Debbie Reynolds. And I was a newcomer with a guy called Paul Crouch, who now has TBN. I haven't spoke to Paul Crouch in 48 years. Is Paul Crouch right? And I always said, do cowboys know how to pray right? It's not how you pray. It's how you conceive. Christianity is not a religion. It's not a religion, it's reality. It's based on history and fact. This week alone, in Daniel 12:4, history repeated itself on April the 14th. 1935, there was a dust storm that came. Give me 2 seconds, wait. A dust storm came through the United States of America, and it blew the dust all over. And this made people to migrate to California because they didn't take care of the soil that was mentioned in the Bible. But anyway, history repeated itself again when the volcano erupted in Iceland, and one more. I have a present for the mayor. Paperweight, you might enjoy. Nice seeing you. Good man. Good man.
Thank you, Mr. York.
Mayor Paris, before we call for the question, I know that we've had some comments tonight in regards to potential lawsuits. In my brief discussion with the city manager, I actually told Mark I want to make sure everybody's clear about my position before we take a vote, or at least I have my say. It's my opinion that I would be irresponsible not to certify this election, and the reason for that being is the city needs to move on, and we need to process and do city's business. And it's not a matter of just tonight, but it's also in the future. I suspect if somebody brings a legal challenge to the certification of the election, and I'm sure Mr. McEwen could chime in, during the time from point A, which would be tonight, and if that was challenged and overturned, we'll probably have to go back in time and undo all of our votes. But in the meantime, I can have a clear conscience and say, we're moving forward, and I think that's what we do need to do tonight. David, you got to...
Yeah, that's right on. If somebody brings a challenge under 16100, the courts have the ability to reverse the certification of the results. But in my opinion, there are no grounds for doing so. And the grounds set forth in 16100 are the exclusive grounds for doing so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could do one last thing. Boy, if you had to reverse the votes, good luck with that, guys. Actually, given the case law and the election code that Mr. McEwen has brought forth and brought to our attention, do I think the election was perfect? If it was perfect, we wouldn't be sitting here discussing this. Was there a flaw in the process that we can correct in the future? Yes. Is it large enough for this council to say we're not going to certify the election? No. If a candidate or a member of the public feels that we are in error, you absolutely have the right to go in front of a judge and try and convince them that either the election code or the previous case law somehow doesn't fit what occurred here. And if you can do that, more power to you. That is the system we have. There is a remedy. You can go to court, you can get the ear of a judge, and give it your best shot. If there's a fatal flaw in the election, you'll be back and we'll be doing this. Well, I won't, but this will be happening again. I don't think there's a fatal flaw. And given that there's no fatal flaw and the city has to move forward, I'm going to vote to certify the election.
Thank you. Okay, there was a motion, there was a second? That's correct. Let's vote. That's right, we're using these now, aren't we? And the election is certified and it's unanimous. Moving on. You know, while we're on the subject, one of the things I think we should be looking at, and I'll be bringing it to you in the next couple of months, is we should re-examine how we do these elections. I'm disappointed when 21% of the people vote, and that is heralded as something wonderful. And it truly was wonderful. I mean, we're beating surrounding cities by a substantial margin, that there's that many people who are involved in our process. But it occurs to me that if we had, 70, 80% of the people voting, that engagement would carry on through the remainder of the next 2 years till the next election. They would now have committed themselves to how the city moves forward and how this city grows. So I'll probably be announcing a formation of a committee for the purpose of looking at exactly that. One, since we're a charter city now, we're no longer governed by the state with the degree of particularity that we have had to deal with, and so we have some options. It strikes me as odd that we have polling places nobody can find. I always have trouble finding my polling place. I guess I'm not unusual in that regard after hearing some people today. I don't know why we don't have them at central places. I don't know why the voting doesn't go on for a week. What's magical about doing it in one day? I don't know why you have to request an absentee ballot. I don't know why we don't send them to everybody. I'm not saying there aren't good reasons not to do that. I'm just saying I don't know what they are. And we should sit down and look at all of this and figure out how to get more people engaged in the process and in their city. So if anybody has a desire to serve on that committee, they should let me know. Fill out the application, and we'll put together a group, and we'll look at it. We certainly need to look at the forms people have to sign, and we can fix that. And finally, Jerry, I can't tell you how sorry I am that you've had to go through this last week. You have had to bear the weight of some horrible things being said, of everybody looking at you with a degree of whatever the degree is I'm trying to think of, that had to have been uncomfortable. And no one should have to do that, especially when you did what you were supposed to do. And I apologize to you for the city. And I think you've performed admirably under the weight of that. I also, have thought about it extensively as to what kind of city do we want? What kind of staff do we want? When there are county clerk's office that you go and file to run for office, and years ago I ran for the hospital board, and it was a much different process than what the city of Lancaster gives you. I stood at the counter. It was very abrupt, very abrasive, not very helpful at all. And then when you do it with Jerry at the city, she actually, sits you down, gets you some coffee. They work through the process. Sometimes that level of informality allows things to slip by that might not normally, and I'm not saying that occurred in this case. But the last thing I want is this city staff to start treating citizens with that degree of officiousness that I find so offensive in other places. And so don't let that happen. Keep doing it the way you're doing. We'll fix the forms. We'll fix the system. It won't happen again. I think you've done a remarkable job. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the Redevelopment Agency and Financing Authority.
I move that we adopt the redevelopment agency.
Mayor
consent
Pierce.
Just a
calendar.
minute, I got to do my script here.
Yeah.
Anything to be removed?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, Mayor,
sir. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
we're on the agency actions
Yeah, consent calendar.
consent calendar.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure before we take the vote, let the record that I plan to abstain because I was not present on the April 15th meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Move to adopt the redevelopment agency consent calendar.
Second?
It's unanimous with Ken Mann abstaining. Moving on to the council consent calendar, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
Again, Mayor Paris, please let the record reflect that my intention is to abstain on the CC2B and FA1.
I think we ought to let Councilman Cilio make the motion. It's his last motion.
We're moving, I'd like to move CC 2A, 2B, and Financing Authority at the same time. Can we do that?
No, we have to do it
We've
separately.
got to do it separately.
Second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous with Ken Mann abstaining. Moving on to the Financing Authority consent calendar. Anything
Yeah.
need to be pulled?
I'll move FA1.
Second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous with Ken Mann abstaining. Okay, now we come to the part where we sign up for another 2 years, huh? So why don't you come on down, Ron, and Marvin, why don't you stand up? Let's do it all at once. Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations.
We're not going to do that group hug again, are we?
Raise your right hand and repeat after me using your own name.
I, Ron Smith,
Robert Sparrows.
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
And the Constitution of the State of California.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States,
To the Constitution of the United States.
Constitution of the State of California.
Constitution of the State of California.
I take this obligation freely
I
Take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
I will
Well and faithfully discharge the duties
on which I am about to enter.
about which I'm about to enter.
Thank you.
Signature on this. Rex, this one is yours.
Special pen or any pen?
No,
Okay. Let me get that special pen.
Thank you.
the envelope is for you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, do we do a final roll call? Is that what we're
Yes,
doing?
we actually need Councilmember Chris to take his seat.
Okay. I think we should have robes and, hats. But, that's just me. Well, welcome to the council.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember, Agency Director, Authority Member Christ.
Present.
Mann.
Present.
Marcus.
Here.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Smith.
Here.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to recess.
One more thing.
Oh, what?
Vice Mayor.
No, we're going to come back to it.
It's listed first.
You want to do it now? Okay. Wait a minute. Before we recess, at this time, I'll nominate the vice mayor. I'll nominate Ron Smith to do another year as vice mayor.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Let's vote. It's unanimous. Now we can have a recess.
Cake and ice cream next door.
See consent calendar, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
I move that we adopt the agency calendar, consent calendar.
Mr. Paris, the RCC 3, the property on Beach Avenue, that's in close proximity to another piece of property I own, so my intention is to recuse myself.
Just how much property do you own?
Well, if we would stay off of Beach Avenue,
We'll remove RCC 3, and I'll move that I'll redo my motion. We'll move that.
Do you have to be out of the room, or can you just abstain?
Get out of the room.
yeah.
I think you need to recuse yourself. You see that? I kept him from going to prison, We should never forget this.
So I'll move that we adopt the consent calendar as currently comprised.
I'll second that.
And it's unanimous with Councilman Mann recusing himself out of the room. Somebody go get him?
Marv, that's your first really exciting vote there, that agency consent calendar.
All right. Council consent calendar, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'll move that we adopt the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay, we'll now open the public hearing on... Ooh, I do? Oh. I'm going to recuse myself because my office is in the area. And I will turn it over to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, let the record reflect that the mayor has left the room and gave me the chair, so we'll open up the public hearing. Can we have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor and City Council. I am requesting your approval to vacate a flood control easement along Amargosa Creek between 10th Street West and Avenue L. Construction is wrapping up on the Amargosa Creek drainage system in this location. We have already in place the maintenance drainage easement for the new drainage system and no longer need the easement that we were asking the City Council to vacate. When the channel was unimproved, we required a fairly wide easement. With the construction of the new drainage facility, we are able to narrow the easement and improve the alignment of the drainage course. Our work keeps drainage flows within the drainage structure and opens up property for future development. With that, I request your approval of Resolution 10-19 and stand ready to answer questions. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? There are no speakers' cards. Have there been any speaker cards or correspondence turned in, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Okay, close the public hearing at the time, and we'll entertain any motions.
I move we adopt resolution number 1019.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, call for a vote. Unanimous with Mayor Paris recusing himself. Let the record reflect the mayor is back in the room and has been given the chair.
Thank you. Moving on to new business. Staff report from the city manager.
My staff report will be very brief on this item. Each year after April, the council reorganizes and considers the committees and organizations that the council is represented on, most of them through a formal relationship. They are listed on your report. I would draw your attention to two items. One, under the second item, the California State Prison Citizens Advisory Commission. That should also be something that was put in the first group as an appointment. The second, I would draw your attention to the Human Relations Task Force recommendation, where we are recommending that you not assign a council member or city participation in that. As has come to light recently over the last couple of months, it's not an organization established by the county. It's not a nonprofit. We are unable to ascertain and believe that there is no errors or omissions insurance, and we've already stopped, as you know, acting as the financial fiduciary, and it is our recommendation at this time that you not participate in that because of the reasons I just stated. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Didn't I read in the paper that the task force no longer exists? They turned it into a commission?
I believe that is correct, yes.
So that's a new organization?
That would be yes, I would guess that would be the case. I still believe that the same conditions apply.
Okay. But just so it's clear, the old organization's gone, there's a new one that we're not participating in?
Yes, that would be correct.
Unless the council decides otherwise, right?
That would be correct.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No questions from cards? No speakers' cards, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, then let's go through the lineup. The Antelope Valley Transit Authority?
Transit Authority.
Transit Authority. That would be Marvin Christ and Sherry Marcus. The Antelope Valley Air Quality Management District would be Marvin Christ and Sherry Marcus. The Sanitation District, number 14, will be the mayor and Vice Mayor Smith. What's the NCTC?
The North County Transit Coalition, Transportation Coalition.
I appreciate the abbreviations, but okay. That one will go to Councilman Mann. He'll be the representative. High Desert Corridor, JPA, will continue to be Vice Mayor Smith. SCAG will be Councilman Mann. League of Cities Desert Mountain Division will be Vice Mayor Smith. League of Cities Los Angeles County Division will be Vice Mayor Smith. Edwards Air Force Base Restoration Advisory Board will be Councilman Christ. Convention and Visitors Bureau will be Vice Mayor Smith with Councilman Mann as the alternate. The Prison Advisory Committee will continue to be Gene Gaynor. And the mayor will reserve the right to attend any of these as in his capacity as the mayor of the city.
I'll second those nominations.
Let's vote. Any discussion? I assume everybody's willing to serve. All right. Okay.
And that would be, that motion would include us, the recommendation from staff to not participating in the
Let's
new
do that
or
as a
the
separate.
old.
Let's do that as a separate
Okay.
item.
Okay, yes, let's vote.
It's unanimous. Okay, is there a motion on the Human Relations, whatever they call it now.
Yeah, I'll move to take staff's recommendation that we do not participate in that organization.
I'll second that.
Let's vote.
We're going to have a discussion.
Want to have a discussion?
Yeah,
All right, cancel the vote.
Is there any way we can have a commission on that from the city of Lancaster?
Yes, I'm working with Rabbi David Hoffman on a cultural commission, which we will also be looking at that issue and doing a comprehensive citywide package that hopefully will keep the politics out of it, will not be a vehicle for people to beat their political war drums or beat other people on their political head.
So we're basically going to have a commission that is going to participate and do the same things, but we're going to do it without doing it politically?
Yeah, and we're going to keep it in Lancaster. Also, what we're hoping to accomplish is something much more positive rather than punitive,
right.
Or rather than just addressing problems after they happen. Hopefully, have a creative process that keeps problems from occurring in the first place. But it's all in the nascent stages, and we'll be asking the community to participate.
Okay.
So the vote stands? I don't think
let's
the
revote.
discussion changed the vote.
Let's revote. And it's unanimous. Okay. Moving on. An appointment to the AV Mosquito and Vector Control Board. I want to be clear, did we do enough notice on these? Did we do the proper notice?
For this particular, for all of them, yes.
Well, I'm going to be nominating Matthew Smith to it, and did we have to notify the public before we actually vote on it?
There is no legal requirement. It's a question of whether you want to give him advance notice.
I just want to dot the i's and cross the t's. So it's okay to do it now?
Yes.
Okay, I would nominate Matthew.
Okay, and I will recuse
Yes.
myself since it's my son, just as Mr. Mann did for his.
And we're not going to hold that against him.
Maybe.
Okay, I'm nominating Matthew Smith to the AV Mosquito and Vector Control Board.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. So we will be getting your mosquito costume later in the week, and we'll expect to see you next meeting in it. Thank you, Matthew. Now, let's move on to council agenda item number 2. And yes. Oh, did they tell you it was something else? I'm sorry. See how dads are? They just trick you every time they get a chance. Okay, moving on to CA2 and council member, Marcus will.
That's the California Global Warming Solutions Act, and what I have done is asked the staff to draw up a resolution to come from this council requesting suspension of the implementation of some, if not all, the regulations of AB 32 until such time as the legal and regulatory inconsistencies can be resolved. And I'm convinced now now is not the time for AB 32, and even Senator Dianne Feinstein recently said, now is the time to focus on jobs, home ownership, and other basic issues, not on new energy regulations. Economists estimate if nothing is done to stop AB 32, it will cost California an additional 1.1 million jobs. It'll cost the average family $3,857 a year in increased expenses for housing, transportation, food, and energy. For small business, it's going to cost them just under $50,000 a year. And I feel for those people that were here in this chambers a couple of months ago talking to Senator Runner and Assemblyman Knight, asking them to please do something about this, that they wanted to comply, but that it was also putting a lot of stress on their business. And some of those are family businesses that have been going for 2 and 3 generations. The AB Press recently asked citizens of the Antelope Valley, do you think California's cap and trade bill should be implemented, repealed, or suspended? And citizens by 90% said repealed. And I'm asking the council to support this resolution as we see our state government literally chasing employers, jobs, and workers out of the state. And as I said, it's time for local government to stand for our citizens. So I would ask for support.
Is there a second?
That was the motion? Yes, I will second that.
Any discussion? Any discussion? One small point. The Antelope Valley Press poll is nice to read and it's fun to read, and sometimes it even has some interest. But we really shouldn't give it the credibility of a poll. I mean, it's not even, I mean, they even say it's not scientific. In fact, it is just bad science. I mean, it's meaningless. And I think it's a mistake for us to credit it with anything, because people start thinking that really is what the people think. It's self-selected, and it's from a very small universe. And from that small universe, it's from people who write letters. I mean, it's so self-selected. And that's the only point I would make. The rest of everything you said, I agree with. It should be revised. It should be the smaller businesses especially should be protected, and it fails to do that.
I just thought I'd throw them a bone.
Okay. Okay, let's vote. Unanimous? Moving on, City Manager, any announcements?
If I may, Mayor, I'd like to go to the podium and ask Bob Green to give a brief report on the Poppy Festival.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bob obviously didn't know he was going to the podium. Just very briefly, first, on behalf of staff, before I do that, we'd like to sincerely congratulate all the council, mayor, council members. We've really enjoyed the progress over the last 2 years and are very, very excited about the next 2 years. So we congratulate all for a well-run campaign. With that, we had our Poppy Festival this weekend. Bob's department led it up, but it was really an all-city staff event. And while it looks like, it's a 2-day festival that looks like it might be fairly easy to put on, it's extraordinarily difficult. There's hundreds of things that come up each day. To make it work right is really a challenge, and our staff just did a great job. And the thing that I'm most proud of is that we are down 40 positions in this city, and we couldn't do anything if we just determined one department or one group was going to take ownership. So the whole city took ownership. It's all hands on deck. If something doesn't go right, the first person there is the person that starts to correct it and get the right people. And it's really a joy to work with such a great team. And with that, I'd like to give Bob the stage to talk about some of the particulars.
Mark took a little bit of the thunder here in this sense that it really is every department that's involved, and that's the nice thing about this. It's teamwork. You can look throughout the city and you'll see every department helping in some shape or form. We do take the lead, and I really want to commend some of the staff in our department, most of the staff that worked on it. At the same time that we did this event, we also had a major soccer tournament taking place at the soccer center, so the other part of our staff were over there doing that. But we pull in the museum, we pull in the theater, we have people from sports, you name it, aquatics are in there working on this event. And it truly is a good teamwork event. But this year we really were excited because it was also one of the best attended events we've ever done. We had over 50,000 people attend. And we had some things that broke in our favor. That's something we're very appreciative of. 2 good days of weather. We don't always get that. We face some bad weather on occasion, sometimes both days, sometimes one of the days. And also we had poppies on the west side. That truly is an attraction. And it brings people from all over the world, frankly, not just from Southern California or the state of California, but a lot of people that call us, even from Europe or Asia, that come out here to see those and then migrate over to the Poppy Festival. And so really a good event. Staff were very creative. We had a lot of interesting venues there. You probably can go by and see for the last time our sand sculpture that was made at the front. Somebody's probably going to knock it down by tomorrow, but it's sitting there unprotected right now. And that was just one of the amazing things that took place. So I really want to commend everybody that worked on it. We have some very creative people in the city. And I think one thing worth mentioning is we hear this every year from the people we bring in from LA County Fair that drive our trams. And they kind of fight to get the job to come over to Lancaster. And the reason is staff treat them nicely, but more than that, our residents are very polite. They like working with them. They don't take the grief they do in other cities or other festivals that they work at, and they enjoy coming here. I hear that from our vendors and others, and I also hear that from vendors that we probably have one of the best producing shows as far as selling goods. So a lot of our different vendors and concessionaires made money, and that's another good thing because they're local residents. So with that, thank the council for your support. We also thank our local businesses who really partner with us and help make this happen, because it really was a great event, a great showcase event for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, City Clerk.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time for any person who would like to address the City Council on non-agendized items to complete a speaker card. You will find the speaker cards at the back of the council chambers. We respectfully request that you fill the cards out completely and print as clearly as possible so that if necessary, the council, the city manager, or city staff will be able to contact you. As much as we appreciate your request to make comments before your 3 minutes begin, please understand your time begins when you start to speak. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. If you choose to ask a question during this time, any response by council will not extend your 3 minutes. When you approach the podium, you will see 3 lights. The green light comes on when your time begins, the yellow light comes on when you have 30 seconds left, and the red light comes on when your time is up. We ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. State law prohibits the City Council and the Redevelopment Agency and the Financing Authority from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter will be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Hess.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Deborah Hess with Southern California Edison. I wanted to make a comment regarding AB 32. I attended the Desert Mountain League of Cities meeting on Friday, and they were unanimous in the same opinion of yours. So I just wanted to share that with you. A lot of cities are concerned regarding the small business and the economy. I have a presentation, well, it's not really a presentation, but I have some slides, and I provided it to the clerk, which she's probably passed out. And rather than give you the cheerleader version, I'm just going to go through the points that I think are most interesting to you. And then when you are bored, you can read through the rest of it. I just wanted to let you know that under advanced technology, something that Edison's doing this year is we're looking at a battery storage over in the Kern County area. So that's something that we're moving forward on. We don't have all of the information to make it public yet, but it is something that we are looking at. So that's kind of exciting. And then I wanted to go over and talk a little bit about some of the programs that we offer because of the I'm sorry.
That's interesting to me. How many megawatts are they looking at?
You know what? I don't have that information,
Okay.
but I can get it for you. Right now, they're going through the permitting process and through the PUC. So
Okay.
we're kind of waiting for the last piece from the PUC before we can really go public.
Okay, as soon as you can get that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Because of the economy, a lot of our customers have not been in the situation where that they need help regarding the energy bill. So we do have a care rate, which is income qualified. And if they have any questions, anybody in the audience, please feel free to come to the Edison office over on 10th Street and M. And then, let's see. I wanted to let you know some of the organizations that we have supported in the area. The Mojave Environmental Education Consortium, the High Desert University Foundation, Salute to Youth Day, K through 15 Bridge Educational Awareness. The Antelope Valley Resource District, Conservation District last year was obtained a $50,000 grant, so I wanted to share that with you. I think what's most exciting and probably most interesting that you'd be most interested in is that Edison is investing approximately $12.8 million in the Antelope Valley. That's between the two cities, and that is not including the Tehachapi Renewable Project. That's outside of that. And that investment covers many upgrades to the system, switches, capacitors, but most importantly, there's 7 new circuits coming through the valley to support reliability and all the new construction that has occurred or is going to occur in the future once the economy turns around. And then the last slide that I want to just touch on is that there is a new seasonal rate shift for customers, GS Rate 1, that's for small businesses, and they can, again, contact us. That's it. Thank you.
That's all? It's thick.
That's the cheerleader version.
Oh. So, wait a minute, you can't go yet. When are we having the meeting regarding the dimming streetlights?
I'm working on that.
So, can you let us know in the next...
Actually, we have met with Robert, and they're doing some analysis, and hopefully it'll be sometime this month. Hopefully.
So within 30 days, can you give us a date when the meeting will take place? With
It better be before 30 days.
All right, good.
It should be before 30 days.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Can you talk about the rate shift?
The rate shift, I can just, where is that? What they've done, well, what we've done is they've kind of done a summer and winter shift. So what'll happen is that we've shifted our rates to lower cost from the October to May timeframe. That's going to be considered the winter season. And then the rates during June through September are going to raise. Hopefully, what will happen is over the 12-month period, the customer will actually see a decrease in the overall bill. I'm sure through June through September, they're not going to be happy. But hopefully the winter reduction will make up for the summer months. Does that make sense?
No.
No.
Not good sense, but, so you're telling us that...
On a GS1, which is small commercial, the rates will be higher during the higher during the summer and lower during the winter than what they are today, or what they were last year.
That ends up with a net gain to Edison, right?
According to the analysis they've done, it should over a 12-month period be a lower cost to the customer.
And so PUC approved that. When did they have an escape clause if it isn't?
You know, since I'm not in the rate department, I don't know. I know with some of the larger rates that they do, what I can do is have the customer solutions person come out, because they're the expert as far as the rates go. I could either have them come to council or do a presentation to staff.
Didn't you do this same rate shift with the fairgrounds, and it was a dramatic increase in their rates?
I don't know. I'm not privy to that, to anything in the past, so I would have to check
maybe
on
we
that.
need a town hall meeting
Oh, we can do that.
where we could have the Edison customers listen to the people that are doing the rates, explain this to us, and let the people making the decisions take some heat. Because the reality is people are going to be very unhappy if it's true to form.
Yes, you're correct. And we'd be more than happy to, at least I'd be more than happy to bring out the experts and talk to the customers regarding that.
And at the same time, perhaps we could have some people there to help them with all of the options available to them in regards to reducing it.
We could do that.
Because I think people are going to be very unhappy with what's coming at them. And I don't think it's fair that they find out about it the day they get their bill.
I don't either. There is information going out to those customers, so they are being notified.
On another note, I noticed that the energy companies are trying to pass an initiative keeping cities from building their own power plants.
Okay, I want to make something very clear. Southern California Edison is not a part of that. Proposition 16, Edison is neutral. So now I'm speaking as an individual person. I'm not working for Edison. So I wouldn't vote for it.
You would?
I wouldn't vote for it
You would not vote for it?
as an individual citizen. No, I would not.
If it passes, does it block the Palmdale power plant?
I don't believe so. My understanding is that for a community who would want to municipalize like DWP or become like DWP, or if they want to do the community choice aggregation, and there was a third point, which I don't recall at the time, you have to have a 2/3 vote of the folks. PG&E is bankrolling this. And I said that as a private citizen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It's always fun to have Edison come talk to us. Sarah Cook.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sarah Cook. I'm daughter of William and Karen Cook from Boron, California, also attending Charter College for Paralegal Studies. And I would like to accredit you, Mr. Paris, for your generous support in keeping us all in your prayers by presenting a certificate of appreciation on behalf of the 560 locked out members of the ILWU Local 30.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. David Paul?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, congratulations. It was a fun campaign, I think. There were some wrinkles, but for the most part, it turned out right, I think. And it struck me that there is no longer anyone on the council that was here when I originally started to come. So it's been a little bit of time. I originally came before the council over a traffic initiative. I was frustrated with the traffic on my street, 25-mile-an-hour residential street that people fly down at 60 and blow right through my stop sign. It took me 2 years to get installed. That still goes on. It's still very frustrating. But the point of the Human Accountability Project in traffic control was to, in part, two parts, get the animosity out of the relationship between law enforcement and the citizens. Because if you think about it, that puts them in an adversarial relationship to the public with the tickets and the inconsistency. Three things converged the other day. I was thinking about all this, and I saw in the paper that the European Union is now starting to look at the feasibility of putting satellites up that will monitor traffic, which was the technical part of the Human Accountability Project. The other part of it was to bring people together by having them understand that, number one, the law is not their enemy, to love and respect the law, but to just slow down and do something good. Because, Mr. Mayor, I was at the State of City breakfast where you made the Christian community comments, and something you said there struck me. You said that when you got God in your life, things changed for you. And I know that's true, because when you take God into your heart, things change, life improves, you want to do good. And it's not necessarily always the religion that has to be that method of unfolding. Just wanting to do something better for your community engenders those types of feelings. That was what the Human Accountability Project was about, to get us an economic position that would be in advance of all the rest of the people that will actually do this, satellite monitoring, and to get people to participate and just respecting one another by driving a little more respectfully. And that makes you feel good and opens you up to all sorts of possibilities. So that's still something that I would certainly like to work on. And I just think that it's still within our grasp to put that program into use. So I would like to talk about it more with you. But anyway, congratulations and good evening.
Thank you. And Mr. Paul, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you persuaded Ms. Zavala to run for council and not mayor. Oh, okay. Carl Sundstrom.
Yes, I just wanted to say a couple of things. As you know, I had a heart transplant last year, and as I was doing a lot of gathering some information on transplants, I found out that many years ago, up until about 1997 or 98, that China was at that time the organ transplant capital of the world. People from all over the world went to China to get a transplant. If they had the money, they could pay for their organs, and they would get them almost immediately. How did they do this? They executed tens of thousands of convicts or inmates every year. As they got these people into the jail and they were given sentences of being executed, they were evaluated as donors. They did not know that. And they never knew when their execution dates would come up. The only way they would know that is when the hospital would have somebody ready to get a transplant. They'd call the prison, and they'd take these guys out of their cells, take them outside, put a bullet in the back of their head, and there'd be surgeons in the ambulance ready to harvest the organs on the way to the hospital. They practiced this for many, many years until the international community got after them and threatened to boycott them and do as much as they possibly could to keep China from continuing this practice. And they finally did stop doing it about 1998, I think it was. Most of the people in China don't believe in transplants because it's part of their religion. And this is the kind of country that Lancaster wants to do business with. And they still continue to do these horrible atrocities in China every single day. But the main thing I want to get at is before Lancaster does business with any Chinese manufacturer of anything, I certainly hope that they do a thorough investigation of these people from the day of their inception. I read in the paper a couple of weeks ago apparently about some of the batteries that they've been talking about that this automobile country is making has had problems with them blowing up and catching on fire. Of course, most batteries do. A lot of batteries do. But, and I don't know if any of that's true or not. But what I'm getting at is that they should be thoroughly investigated on all these products that they make before we get into bed with them here in Lancaster and find out if they have had problems with them. And I don't think China is going to help you do that. But I think that needs to be done, and I understand that KB Homes has already signed a contract with them, and I hope that they look into these things, that if they use their products, that sometime down the line these products could cause all kinds of problems, like everything else that China has sent us. They do not have the same safety standards. They do not have the same quality standards as we do here in the United States, and we should be very, very leery before we do business with them. Personally, I wouldn't do business with them at all. Can I say anything about the election? I'm glad, I'm happy with the way it came out. I vote every year, and I'd just like to say that all those people who I would call sore losers realized they didn't get enough votes. If they changed the election at all, they still wouldn't get enough votes, and that's just, they should suck it up, take their loss like a man, move on, and stop their whining. Thank you.
Just as a point of clarification, if you have an Everready battery, you have a BYD battery. All of Everready is BYD. Just thought I'd point that out. Okay, Dan Winston.
Distinguished Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council members, my name is Dan Winston. I come before you on behalf of the many small business owners in Lancaster What I'm asking is for a 3-year moratorium on LED signs and banners. I understand, I was informed by one of the ladies in the office that you can only have a banner on your business for 30 days, and LED signs you can't have in your window. Many of the businesses that I want to service are in malls, and they wouldn't affect traffic in any way, and the banners wouldn't inhibit drivers or a major distraction at all. And we know these critical and crucial times, especially for small businesses where they're trying to survive. It means life or death if they can make enough money to keep them in business. And, they have a saying that a business without a sign is a sign of no business. And I want some kind of moratorium so that the business can get a little bit more advertising. A lot of them can't afford big billboards for everybody to see. But and a lot of these malls, you have businesses on one end of the mall, and in between, no businesses. So the people on one end of the mall, if the person has a banner and they're 10 feet high, they can see what the other merchants are selling on the other end of the mall, or the plaza, basically, not malls. They're just plazas. And furthermore, if it was a problem as far as environmental impact, as far as, I got the impression that people thought that banners and signs would cause some type of accidents. And I personally, I can't see the significance in them causing any accidents or anything. Plus, it would give the businesses that are closed with the LED signs, it would give them an opportunity for, if a person is in the area doing business in other stores, it scrolls down the information of all the things that they have, so that when a person needs their services, they can see the services. Because, I know you've been around, but all over.
I'm a big sign guy.
Yeah, I know it. All over, businesses are folding up at record levels. I'll just give you a small, they had a 99-cent store and a dollar store side by side. The dollar store closed. So these people are struggling to try to maintain their business, and a banner indicating, their wares would help them, and the LED sign also.
You know what I'd like to do is, Natalia's at the back of the room, sitting against the wall. I'd like you to set up a meeting with her. I'd like to see exactly what you're talking about, and then maybe we'll talk to the staff about doing a test project someplace.
Yes.
And let's do it incrementally. But, yeah, I'm a sign guy.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks. Pat Bruder? Pat Bruder? Okay. David Aber?
Good evening, council, staff, and citizens. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Mr. DeRico and the sheriffs. There was a little problem out front with some of Victoria Wallace's people, and I appreciate them stepping in and addressing the issue. So on my way to the Laker game, and I happened to have the TV on, and I saw Mrs. Irv Rubin. So Laker game wasn't worth going to. I've stood here before you telling you where we stand with Burbank versus Rubin. She's absolutely correct, 100%. It's already been ruled upon. It will cost the taxpayers money, and we'll get sued and we'll lose. There's many other lawsuits we're facing. We're going to get beat up on a couple other ones. The Allied Arts, I think, is not a good one. But I came here because of another thing that got said a little earlier. This letter right here is dated April 13th. It's addressed to Attorney General Jerry Brown as well as Secretary of State Deborah Bowen. And it starts off that I'm David Aber, a resident of Lancaster, and I've been speaking with the election officials since early in January. Due to the inappropriate handling of my nomination papers, Jerry Bryant, city clerk, is the only designated election official at that point in time for the city of Lancaster. Therefore, city manager Mark Bozigan and Mayor Rex Parris's attempt to keep me from running for office gave the appearance of impropriety, if not the actual impropriety itself. The fairness and impartiality is of the utmost importance to all candidates, which are guaranteed by our constitutional safeguards. On January 22nd at City Hall, Mayor Parris's interference with my nomination paper process was inappropriate to prevent my participation in the upcoming election. However, very shocking statements. Mr. Parris made statements to me shortly after being elected that as long as he's mayor, no one has civil rights in the city of Lancaster, and that's not going to be tolerated. At March 26th at a public groundbreaking for the energy for BYD and KYD, 4 sheriff's deputies with no explanation removed me. This is a violation of my First Amendment, as well as discrimination, harassment, defamation, is unacceptable as a citizen or a candidate. This appears to violate the Fair Political Practice guidelines. In closing, the appearance of possible impropriety, tampering, and fraud with the Lancaster City election on April 13th, I hereby request an investigation pursuant to the safeguards guaranteed, but not limited to, all election codes, fair practices, and regulations, as well as the California and United States Constitution. I formally challenge the certification of the election results until a thorough investigation is completed. I'm going to leave you with one thing. It's quo warranto. Thank you very much.
M. Feller.
Hi. Jerry, I just want to let you know that I don't know of anybody who had a problem with you concerning this election, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. I'm sure Mr. Parris has heard things that we haven't, but I know the people that were supporting Jonathan and Victoria, and more importantly, the 2,100 voters had no problems with you concerning this. But I'm not here to talk about the election. I'm glad we brought up the Antelope Valley Human Relations Task Force and the Christian comments. Sherry Marquez had apologized to the city for dragging them into some nasty business. Now that she's got the world looking at her Facebook page, I definitely question your apology. Now, not only do you dislike Muslims, but you appear to dislike feminists, Nazis, or not Nazis. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip there.
Yeah, we dislike them too.
Yeah, okay. Feminist, you have anti-gay things on your Facebook page. You have anti-Democrat things on your Facebook page. And, well, I was going to say I could live with that, but I really can't. You have promoted May 20th to draw a picture of Muhammad. At this point, I really got to wonder if you're not looking for a holy war. We have had no problems with the Muslims in this community. And you just seem to want to push it and push it and push it. And the world is now watching, thanks to the remarks you made 3 months ago. You want to have freedom of speech? Fine. But at this point, during my calculating of who you like and who you dislike, you're probably representing about 20% of the city. Why don't you, at the very least, make your Facebook page non-public, to your friends only? When I saw that you were promoting a day to draw Muhammad, you are not South Park. You are a city representative. They make their living mocking everybody. We don't need somebody who mocks everybody representing the city of Lancaster. Thank you.
Ma'am, did you read the article that was attached to what I was? Okay, I was just sharing something that was posted. I did not make.
Listen, you can speak from the dais during your 3 minutes. We're not going to have this exchange between people, and I would ask you to sit down.
I'd just like to clarify that I shared something that was put out there, and if you read the content of it, it talks about freedom of speech. I wasn't promoting anything but freedom of speech.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Councilman Smith and Councilmember Marcus on the AV Transit Authority.
You can do it.
I noticed, well, I didn't have a report here from AVA QMD, but I also wanted to just say how glad we were to hear that they were going to do the lawnmower trade-ins again this year. And they did, I think they did 50 last year, and they were going to do 100 this year. And they ran out of the applications the first, hour.
Right.
So it's very successful, so we were very excited to see that happening again at AVA QMD. The AVTA board, we unanimously approved the release of a request for qualifications to identify a consultant to assist in the procurement of the next operating contract. The contract with Veolia is up in June 2011. Regarding consideration of capital projects to be funded through ARA Round 2, the board discussed possible ways of maybe having shuttle buses for the city of Lancaster, for one, but the other part of it was that we were going to see if we could take some of that money and improve bus stops, the gutters and curbing to that. And that's about it.
Well, let's see, we can add, even though the report would come next time, today at the Antelope Valley Board of Trade, sorry, I'm tired, the Antelope Valley Transit District, we voted for that we would get 6 trolleys or buses that we're going to have, that the city of Lancaster's got to wrap with the Boulevard brand and go out to the hotels and bring people to the shopping and do all that. So I think staff, Mark Bozigian, thinks that we can actually make money on it and for the city, and I think it's going to work out good. And so I think it's a great thing. And they're going to be electrical or hybrid too.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Good. Thank you. My turn? My turn, right? We're starting a new year. I want to be absolutely clear as to my feelings about what we should be doing on our Facebook and in the community. And I think we should be as vocal and as opinionated and as willing to engage in the free expression of our ideas as we possibly can. And it is simply abhorrent to me that because we've become elected officials, we should somehow hide what we believe or feel about any relevant issue or even irrelevant issue that may present itself. If we were to do that, I think we would defeat the very nature of democracy. It is essential that people know how we believe, feel, and think. And if they disagree with it, they disagree with it. I mean, I disagree with the people putting swastikas on my forehead and putting "kill the dogs" and putting that on their Facebook page, which the person who spoke is a member of that Facebook. And that could only mean that they were essentially saying that someone should kill me. And I think that is absolutely abhorrent. I think this last election was beyond the pale. And the last person that spoke was at the very forefront of it. To put up something like that on a Facebook where my family could see it, where my children could see it, and then send it out in emails, and then get up here and have the audacity to complain that you don't like what the councilwoman thinks or feels, I'm sorry. That is just not something we're going to join in with. Thank you very much. You can speak at the next meeting. Now, I know I'm supposed to be quiet about these things and not say anything about them, but I'm looking forward to a raucous 2 years where this city engages in magnificent debates about every possible issue that any of us would like to discuss.
Mayor Paris.
Yes.
Concern that I've got, and I thought this might be an appropriate time to discuss, with the re-imaging of the downtown area, I suspect over the next we're beginning a new era, and I suspect that things will begin to change as far as the outlook of what the downtown area looks like. And historically, the council had a discussion about possibly looking into a preservation ordinance. And I think probably no better time than would be for us to bring it to staff's attention to come up with a draft ordinance for us to take a look at as a council, to make sure that some of the historical buildings that are specifically in the downtown area are preserved in the manner in which they're constructed. And I was hopefully trying to get some concurrence from the council on their thoughts.
Shouldn't we be dealing with architectural and design on that?
Great place to start.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, we have the Cedar Street Theater issue coming at us.
Great one.
We want to preserve that.
Yeah, a good one for us to make sure that the public is aware of what our intention is of a council to preserve some of those architectural styles that we've got in the downtown area specifically.
And to say nothing of the palm trees, right?
And the palm trees.
Well, I heard we're
People
gonna
were
have
complaining that
Joshua
we moved the
trees.
palm trees. It's kind of an inside joke, so, just so you know.
If that's the wish, we could certainly add that to the agenda of that commission.
Okay, good.
I think that is a very good place for them to start.
Great. Okay,
I think that's a great idea.
good. Next meeting, I'll be doing the nominations for the different commissions. Anybody that wants to get an application in, they should get it in. And then we'll go from there, okay? Great. We have an executive session or a closed session. So we'll recess for the purpose of the closed session, and then we'll come back and adjourn. Okay. Thank you for coming. Remember, I mean, we find it all very fascinating and interesting, but I hear that it's not the same.
Different on TV, sitting right here in the front row.
Okay, we're back on. Turn it over to the city attorney.
Mr. Mayor, the City Council Redevelopment Agency met in closed session under Government Code Section 54956.9B concerning anticipated litigation. One matter gave direction pursuant to that matter.
Thank you. Okay, we're adjourned until Tuesday, May 11th, 2010 at 5 p.m. Carol, I'm coming home.